Health and longevity expert Carrie Nosler and I are going to talk about the use of SARMs for over 50, but this is not medical advice. Always follow your doctor recommendation. This is just going to be two sources of information. Number one is Carrie Nosler's real-world actual experience in using some of these things, which are not for human consumption. They are research chemicals, but he's allowed to experiment on his own body and report his findings. And then I'm also going to hypothesize as to going forward which types of these things would be beneficial for Carrie based on the research that I have learned, and then for him, just give him to be able to do his own research further into these things. First, let's go to the goals. So Carrie Nosler's goals are to feel good, to live longer, to increase his strength, to increase his mental performance and mental outlook, that's optimism, and to increase his appearance, which is more muscle and less fat. So tell us about your experience in using Ostarine. Give us the good and the bad, benefits and side effects.
Well, I know I'm going to talk about Ostarine, but I want to talk about this first because this is what you first got me going on, because the logic behind it appealed to me.
Also, this disclaimer, this is not actually a SARM. Some of these things are not actually SARMs, but they fit so well into what his cycle was that we're going to talk about all of them because we're talking about the benefits of these things to him as someone who's over 50.
And I use this as a foundation because it's a secretagogue. That means, again, I wasn't introducing something that could cause any kind of feedback or body compensation or hormonal compensation. This was allowing the growth hormone that everybody secretes. Unlike testosterone, as you get older, you're still secreting growth hormone, just that our habits change. We don't sleep as deeply, we don't exercise as intensely. It doesn't come out. So this being a secretagogue, I said, this makes sense. I want to try this. And you put me initially on some Ostarine, and that was pretty amazing.
How long ago was that?
6 months ago, and I did it for a month or two. I tried some of the other ones, and then a little while ago I went on the for Andro, but I've kept this up. I've cycled the other ones, but I've kept this up, and I know you talk about cycling. I didn't understand why I would need to cycle something that my body is still producing and will continue to produce, but you can, elucidate on that. What I noticed in the beginning was an immediate increase of strength. Immediate.
From which one?
The Ostarine.
From Ostarine.
The Ostarine, yeah. And at the same time, I was also doing some Cardarine. You had talked about improving cardiovascular fitness, and since I do 2 days a week, I do interval training, high intensity interval training. That made sense. And then again, this is not a SARM either, the Blue Ox, but it's a base for my body's ability to do its thing with testosterone as well, even as it's declining as I age. I wanted that to kind of make sure that this worked better.
Carrie is running a very low dosage of TRT, crazy low. And the Blue Ox, the reason why I had given that to him was not so his body would actually produce more testosterone, but to keep all the gears running, and then also to reduce sex hormone binding globulin, which would free up some of the testosterone that's already in his body.
Right.
So, all right, so this increased your strength.
And at the same time, I must say, though, there was a lot of water retention. I gained weight pretty quick.
From this one?
Yeah.
Or this one?
The two.
Supposedly, this one can cause water retention because growth hormone causes water retention.
Now I don't have as much water. But whatever the combination, let's just say, that caused some water gain.
So when did you experience the water gain to go away? When you stopped taking one of these?
Yeah, when I stopped this, the Ostarine. I experimented with a lot of the other ones, like Anadrol.
Are you talking about, okay, so you can have water intracellular in the muscle or water under the skin. So you're saying like under the skin?
I think mine was under the skin.
Film water.
Yeah.
Another potential, did you change your diet? Because sometimes these things can make you more hungry.
No, and I know, and this is a question I think that needs to be answered. I think the older you get, the less hungry you get when you take this. Because I would talk to you guys and they say, oh my God, I ate all night. Didn't do anything to me as far as appetite was concerned. So I think there might be a difference in terms of age application.
Tell me again what the net effect of the oral growth hormone was. What did you experience from it?
Well, let me be honest that I'm basically feeling pretty good most of the time. Okay, so I can't tell you that it was just such a dramatic deal other than greatly increased strength and size initially. And it felt good.
But you did combine both of these,
Yep.
so you're not sure which one did it. It's the combination of both.
No. And I think I took more. I went back on this just a week ago. Immediately could feel a better
What
outlook.
dosage of the Ostarine are you taking?
1 in the morning, 1 at night. And I think in the beginning I was taking 2 and 2. I think that's what you have me on. And this one I've taken I've taken as many as 3 or 4 twice a day.
Oh,
experimenting. Wanted to see what would happen. 4 of the Blue Ox, 2 of the Cardarine in the morning.
Okay, let's talk about the Cardarine really quickly before we get to the other SARMs.
Right.
Cardarine boosts AMP-K, which is good to have sometimes. It actually potentially has a lot of killing cancer benefits, just like fasting. Kind of put your body in a fasted state to burn body fat, and your endurance goes way up. But you've been on this a really long time. The studies showed that chronic usage is extremely high dosages, way higher than what you're taking. But chronic dosages causes cancer. Low doses may be able to cure cancer. You do your own research. High doses may cause cancer. So this is something I would definitely cycle. So come off of that. Blue Ox doesn't need to be cycled. Technically, neither of these need to be cycled, although I personally like to cycle everything. And then these ones, have you experimented with any of these? And if not, I'll go over what I think they would do.
I've taken different ones of these. The S4 I know I've done, the Leganodrol. But I can't tell you that I felt any as much as I did with the Ostarine.
Okay.
The Ostarine seems to be the one that works best for me.
Well, I'll give you just a really quick overview. This is just based on my experience with these things, not necessarily scientific studies, because there haven't been enough studies on these things done. So give as much credit to where the information is coming from, which is just the feedback that I get from other people and myself. Ligandrol builds more muscle, but Ostarine repairs joints, tendons, and ligaments more. So this is for health and longevity. This does a lot more, and bones. This probably does a lot more than the Ligandrol, although Ligandrol could do it to a lesser extent. Rad 140 is more for muscle tightness or definition and hardness. So it makes more of a visual impact and also more of a mental aggression and mental energy, which can be positive or negative. The YK11 is supposed to be a myostatin inhibitor to remove the glass ceiling of how much muscle you can build. I think as we get older, this would become less and less important, or as we're further and further away from our own genetic potential. My hypothesis is the YK would be less and less important. So probably by default wouldn't include it in any of your strategies. The S23 we know very little about other than it's extremely powerful and it works similar to the Rad 140, more of a cutting effect. And the S4 is what a lot of competitors use to replace steroids for cutting for a cycle. The reason why I wouldn't use the S4 over 50 is because it does have vision side effects, which so far have proven to be temporary. But still, as you get older and your vision gets a little worse, adding in something that makes your vision even worse, I wouldn't do it. So personally, I would stick up here for you between the Ostarine and maybe adding the Ligandrol for size, and obviously the growth hormone for health and longevity.
Okay, my question is, in doing some of the research, looking at the websites, part of what I was looking for was what kind of suppression I would have, what type of problems with creating estrogen, and I think that was one of the reasons why I was doing the ones I was doing. So you can kind of go over that if you don't mind, because that's definitely what I don't want to do, obviously.
Right, none of these convert to estrogen, not even the YK11 from my experience. The oral HGH obviously can't convert to estrogen, it's not even an anabolic. It works on the growth hormone mechanism of action. Obviously, this is not an anabolic at all. So the difference between these SARMs and steroids is that they don't convert to estrogen. So you don't need to take an aromatase inhibitor. You're already taking a pretty low dosage of testosterone. So it's not likely converting to estrogen very much. But if you get your blood test back and your estrogen seems high, one potential possibility of that is these SARMs could occupy the receptors and kick the testosterone off the receptors, and then once testosterone's kicked off the receptor, it either converts to estrogen or DHT if your body can't use it, or binds up to sex hormone binding globulin. So in that case, if we look at your blood work, then we can adjust from there.
Okay. And there's different advantages to how the body blocks estrogen, either as a phytochemical so that you don't bring in the stronger estrogen. It's a kind of a positive thing in that way. For instance, flax seeds with their lignans, they have estrogen mimics, in a sense, that will go there and keep the stronger estrogens. There's 3 types of estrogens. The one that causes problems with inflammation and all that, it keeps them from binding.
So there's things in nature that act like selective estrogen receptor modulators to bind to the receptor.
Yeah, they're lignans, mainly lignans. And flaxseed has been used for men for prostate problems.
So you use that as part of your way of balancing estrogen
Oh,
with your
yeah.
protocol?
Yeah. Two of them, flaxseed and sesame seed, especially black sesame, are also very high in lignans, and lignans are very positive.
What are you going to do going forward? Are you just going to stick with the Austrian and the MK677?
Well, per what you just said, I do some testing too. I do muscle testing. That may not be as scientific as the information I present, but it gives me an idea of just what my body's talking about. And I was not responding to Austrian for some time. You
mean you plateaued? Like it was working and then stopped working?
It just said it wasn't, I wasn't ready for that.
What do you mean it wasn't ready?
Well, with my muscle testing, to see if it was working. I can show you that some other time, but this is always tested positive. The Austrian just recently came back online. So I'll use that until it says to stop, and then I'll try this.
Okay.
Along with this.
So
and I'm going to stop this for a while.
Make sure I understand. From previous discussions, then you took Austrian for a while. Everything was working well with this. You plateaued. You came off the Austrian. You went on again.
And I might say too, I think, and I'm not quite sure, I think I might have combined Austrian with one of the other SARMs in the beginning as well. Because you get kind of excited when you're doing these things and you're trying this and you're trying that. So I might have had different combinations that I was working on.
All right.
And part of that, the reason for that, and this is one of the benefits that we talked about, mental performance and optimism. One thing you want as you age is the desire to keep improving, either through your knowledge, what you're gaining in terms of wisdom, and or that your body, that you're able to accomplish goals even when supposedly things are supposed to be slowing down. That's a critical element. Otherwise, you just get stuck in this, oh gosh, I'm just such and such and I can't do this and I'm just going to accept the inevitable. To me, that's a very, very difficult position to be in if you want to have a quality of life that allows you to think, if I keep studying, if I keep researching, I know there's something there that's going to help me. And that's what I really found here. I do that in all my things, but when I came into Enhanced Athlete, that was a real revelation.
Besides the water retention, have you had any other side effects?
No.
And you review your blood work all the time. How's your cholesterol?
It was 146. HDL was in the 70s. LDL was down low. C-reactive protein was way low. I had the big and the small particle size done as well, and that was all very, very positive.
And you remind me again, when you started these, how long ago have you been experimenting with SARMs?
Well, when did we come into some of our first interviews? It was
been about a year.
Back in the winter time of last year.
Yeah, so at least 7 months.
Yeah.
7 months of SARMs experiments. Okay, well, keep us updated on your SARMs experiments as you experience with different dosages, with your blood work, to tell us if you notice any negative
Can I say
effects.
one other thing? When I started back on this, I could definitely feel a mental betterment. It was pretty dramatic, I thought.
Yeah.
I thought, well, this feels good.
I know the feeling. If I miss a couple days of Austrian during PCT and I experience the mental effect of low testosterone, I'm a mess. So I know the feeling. Be swole, my friends of freedom, pioneers of human evolution. If you're not already subscribed and you don't want to miss out on cutting edge content on the daily, hit the subscribe button.